think this is one of the hardest types of breakups you can have, because at least in past relationships I had that were very tumultuous, I could look back and be like, he was such a dick. I could reread texts that were mean and critical and be like, oh God, yeah, he wasn't good for me, whatever. But when you're with someone who is so kind and sweet and gentle throughout the relationship, and then all of a sudden they turn on you and leave you abruptly, and maybe they lied to you before they leave or cheat on you, it's so fucking confusing, and it really makes you question yourself. These are the two things that I have had to come to terms with. The first thing is that sometimes when we so desperately love someone and we are craving them so much, we want to convince our brain of certain things. And so we will kind of like seek out content that will reinforce those things, and we will try to tell ourselves that that's true. One of those things for me, and I think that this might be true for a lot of people, is the fact that dismissive avoidants will often leave you because they feel like they don't measure up in the relationship. They feel like they don't deserve you. And so when we hear that, we tend to think, oh, poor baby, like, no, you deserve me. And then we think like, oh, I can do something to change that. I can control it now. I can make them realize that they do deserve me. While that is probably true in a lot of cases, I really do think that that is why avoidants leave. That's like a huge reason why they leave. But the problem is that's like at the root, but it's not what's on the surface. What's on the surface for an avoidant is just a very profound feeling of shame. They have gotten to the point in the relationship where there is no turning back for them. When they look at you, all they see is their own shame staring back at them, and they can't go back in time now and change that. There's a point for a dismissive avoidant in every relationship where they start to realize that they can't be enough for you, and they never will, and it starts to change the way that you look in their eyes. And so while it is probably true that like they don't feel like they can measure up and things like that, like they know logically, they see your worth, they see how amazing you are, they see that you treat them so well. At the same time, their brain has convinced them for so long now inside their own head, they weren't telling you, they've convinced themselves now that they are not interested in you anymore, because anytime they look at you, anytime they're around you or have to deal with your emotions or your feelings, it brings them shame. And so when they leave you, all they want to do is just get away. They don't want to deal with you anymore. They are going to avoid it at all costs. If you try to reach out, if you try to talk about the relationship, if you bring things up, they just want it to go away, because having to deal with it would be having to deal with shame. You have to remember that for a dismissive avoidant, when they're unhealed, their fear is always going to be bigger than their love for you. So it doesn't really matter how much they loved you or how amazing they think you are. It doesn't matter. The second thing that I have had to tell myself is this was like the first relationship for me that ever really felt like nice. A lot of my relationships have been like abusive or tumultuous, or, you know, us doing drugs the whole time. And this was the first time that I ever felt healthy, safe, secure, nice, no fighting. But what I had to come to terms with is that it was actually an illusion of safety. What was really happening was it was two people coming together with insecure attachment who had their own separate lives and their own separate thoughts. And those things were never coming together. We were never actually vulnerable or communicating with each other about any real hard things. So we weren't actually really having a real relationship. It can be really easy to be drawn to that perceived safety or that perceived gentleness or kindness in that person. But there are a lot of kind and gentle people out there, right? This is not the only kind and gentle person in the entire world. There are a lot of people like that out there. And there are a lot of people that will take a relationship seriously and will show up and will see your value. I have really gotten to the point now at 6 months away where like I'm starting to see my value more and more, and I'm starting to realize like I don't want to be with someone who has to leave me to see my value. I don't want to be with someone who can only be involved in relationships when they are superficial or in the honeymoon phase. I want to have a real connection with someone. I know my value. I know what I bring to the table. I know that I'm a really good partner. I know that I'm talented and smart, and I know that I deserve someone who can reciprocate my efforts. And honestly, it's unfortunate. Like I feel bad that my ex does not get to experience being with me. Like, I don't care if that sounds narcissistic. I just know my value. I know my worth, and I know I was really good to him. So that's too bad. You know, somebody else will get to experience that, who will not take it for granted, who will be able to show up, you know, like a partner. And in the meantime, I'm just going to keep working on myself so I can become the type of partner that is ready for someone like that.